Welcome to part 2 of the control chart tutorial. If you haven't seen part 1, you really need to go to part 1 before part 2 can make sense. In part 2, we're going to set the chart up as a dynamic chart so that when you add additional data to your table range, it will automatically update in the chart. Right now it doesn't. So if I go and add data to 2022, it doesn't update. What I want to do is I want to put a formula for date so that the only values I need to change are the year values. And right now the year values are using formulas. You may or may not want to extend that formula. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 0 in here, so that there is no formula showing up in my Excel. Sometimes when you create a table like this, Excel starts to assume that what you want to do is autofill your formulas, and that's not what I want to do. So I'm going to manually put 0 in here, and that stops Excel from autofilling, flash filling my data. I could also change the formula so that it will check for that, but I'm not going to at this moment. So the date function, I'm going to put a formula in here, equals if is number. I've been using that formula for a while. H21. If it's number H21, then G21, then I'm going to do G20 plus 1. So whatever is in G20 plus 1, that will give me 2022, as long as there's data in the return cell. So the return cell is the only thing that needs updating. And if it's false, I want to leave it blank. Now you'll notice that I have some conditional formats in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the conditional format, because for me the yellows are values that I need individuals to change. Those are my input cells. The grays are the ones that contain formulas and will automatically change. So I want to apply this conditional formatting to this cell. So let's go to the conditional formatting wizard, click on conditional formatting and manage rules. Now I have a rule for the yellow, so I'm going to look for all the rules in my current worksheet. This is easy to find. I'm going to edit that rule so that instead of applying to G3 to H199, which is the 2 columns here, I'm going to have it apply only to H, and that's where my average return is. Now I'm also going to edit the cells with the grays, right? My grays are, I think, cell contains blank, edit as gray. And right now I'm editing I2 to, I'm applying it to I2 to K199. I'm also going to apply to F3 to G199. And that covers the column with the date in. So if I press enter, you can see that now these are gray as well. So I'm going to take the formulas and copy it all the way down. Okay, so that will automatically update if there are numbers in here. And for right now, I'm going to delete this cell and see it works. So now the next thing I want to do is introduce to you a parameter called offset. I'm going to use that in the range name, but I want to describe it to you first. And also, when you're using a formula in Excel's named range, it makes sense to make sure the formula works on the screen before you go on and put it in a range name. So let's show you what offset does. Offset takes 5 parameters, 3 of them compulsory. The other 2 are optional. It takes a reference row. It takes a row and column number, and that tells you how many rows where to retrieve data from the reference row. So if I do 3, It means I want Excel to take the reference row and go down 3 rows, 1, 2, 3. That will bring me back 2007. If I do 0, it will bring back the same column. So I'm going to close this, press enter. 2007, 3 rows down, same column. If I change the offset parameter, make this 0, it'll bring me back 2004. If I change the offset parameter, make this -3, the rows -3, it's going to count upwards instead of down. We have no data at the top, so we're going to ignore that. But when I do column -3, it's going to go 3 columns to the left instead of the right, and it will bring me back 2001. So now that we know how these work, I want to bring back, I can bring back more than one row and more than one column. The height and the width shows me how many data points to bring back. So let's say I want to bring back 10 rows. I'll just add the height parameter in, 10 rows of data, go back to the top and change, bring back width, bring back 2 columns of data. It's going to bring me back 10 rows from the reference row, including the reference row, and 3 columns, including the reference column. Now, of course, what's happened is that it doesn't want to overwrite my information. Oh yeah, sorry, I did bring 2 columns back. If I had brought back more than 2, it will override my information that I have here, by the way. So that's that. So now I'm going to delete this. And in place of the number of rows to bring back, I'm going to use a count formula. So we're going to count all the values in this cell here. And it will bring back the number of columns with numbers in. So now if I go in here and type 5, it will keep going. So that's how the offset parameter works. So let's delete this. Now I'm going to go back and change the offset parameter, because when I use it in the name wizard, I will need this to be a permanent address. The reference cell will be permanent, so F4, and the cells to count will also be permanent. If you don't make them permanent, every time you change something on your sheet, Excel will change the it will change the references, which is not what you want. Your data is always going to be in columns G to L to K, and we're going to edit it so that that's where it's always going to be. The only thing is, if it expands within that data cell, then everything expands, including your table. So now that I've got the formula I want, I'm going to copy this formula. Sorry, there are no formulas there. It's only in the first one. I'm going to copy this formula, Control C, press enter. I'm going to delete this because I don't need it. I've already got the formula I want. Now let's go create a named range in Excel. The named range is going to end up as a dynamic range so that when we change the values in the range, it will change it in our table. First things first is I'm going to create the named range, and I'm going to use a shortcut. You can create a name for each range by going to formulas and define names, but I'm going to use create from selection, and I'm going to create range names for all the values at the top. Okay. If you go here, you'll see all of the names show up, right? So these are definite named ranges. Now, if I select one of them, see what it refers to. Awesome. Now I'm going to modify those ranges by going to Name Manager. Can you see? These are the values in a cell. The formula refers to Google return H3 to H20. We're going to replace that with the offset parameter. Turn, we're going to highlight and change the formula to the offset parameter. Average return is in column H, so we're just going to make this H, H, H. Then select the next one. Oh, oops. Okay, let's edit. Paste. We're going to make this H, H, and H. Okay. Go to the next one. I wonder if I can edit it right in the box. I should be able to. That's in I and I. Delete that. Yes. And then the next one, paste the offset formula and make this J, J, and J. Next one, yes, offset formula. Warning is in K, 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 and K. Next one, and year is the one that's actually in G. So we're going to put this down for G. Oops. And okay, now we can close it. We've got offset formula, offset formula, offset formula, offset, offset. Everything looks good. H, I, J, K, and G. And close. So that's my name range done. So how do we use the offset and the dynamic range? We just change the references to the data in the table. So if you click in here, you can right click and select data. You can also click on the chart and go to chart design and select data. We're going to edit this and change the locations. Delete everything from the $sign and type your named ranges. Now, if you have, I'm using a PC, I don't know if this works in Mac, but you can also select the data you want to delete, click F3, and it brings up the name box. Select the name for the average return. Average return returns the correct data, pointing to the right cell, okay. Do the same for lower control limit. We're not deleting the hashtag. This is the location. This is what tells you what sheets to look for. So I'm going to just delete the $, and everything after that. Do F3, put year in there. Do the same here, delete. No, do F3. If I don't delete, it'll just overwrite it. Lower control limits, works. Go back, edit. F3, yeah. Select F3, upper control, okay. Edit, select, yeah, select, warning, brings back the right numbers, okay, and okay. So now my link to data is dynamic in nature. It is dynamic in nature. Shall we prove it? This is interesting. I wonder what happened to my third data series here, because it's not highlighting anymore. Oh, that is interesting. Everything else seems to be working well, but there's something wrong with my warning, my dynamic range for warning. Oh, okay, so these are not applicable. Why is it not working? Let's go back to the formula, the named range formula, review view. Formulas, name range. My warning is definitely the right formula for K, but it's only finding 3 values, not all the values. So let me go back and select these values here and go to my, because of the errors, isn't it? Because of the errors. So I need to modify this formula a little bit. We can't be counting this. I want to count A. Count A brings me non-blank values. So instead of doing count for this, I'm going to use count A. So let me test it first. Equals offset. Some of the values in the offset in the warning row are errors. So it omitted it. When you do count A, it only counts numbers. When you do count, it counts numbers. Count A counts everything. So let me try this. My reference row this time is the first one. I want to bring back 0 and 0 and height. Let's do count a K3 to K200. Close the bracket and do enter. Oops, I'm missing out. So, okay, so this will work if I do that. It's bringing me back the number of values in here. Count A will count the non-zero tabs, and for some reason it's including this as part of the non-zero. Oh, there are no formulas in here. And there are no formulas, so I've deleted some of the formulas I have. Okay, so these are all formulas and these work now, so we're good to go. Okay, so that's awesome. So I'm going to change the formula for my offset so that instead of using count, it's using count A. So go back to name manager, and for warning, you really want to keep consistent formulas, okay? So if you're going to use count A for one, you might want to consider using count A for everything else. So save. Now we're back in business. My graph is dynamic. But the test of this is in what happens to my graph when I change the numbers in my table, okay? So I'm going to move the chart down so that when I change things, you can see what's going on, okay? So let's make this 15%. Can you see? 37%. I'm only changing these values here. 8%, 2%, minus 6, and 1. So that's how you build a dynamic control chart. Now, I don't know why the formulas, I think I deleted certain things and the formula skipped. Excel's being nice. So those are my formulas. Everything works now. Everything looks good. As long as I keep updating this up to the 200 row, my control chart will expand and the label will change as well. The final thing we want to do here is we should insert a chart. Insert illustration. I'm going to insert, I'm going to insert illustrations in here. So let's do shapes, and I'm going to do the call out chart. I've just used the call out, but I'm going to use it now. And we're going to just draw one here and say this is upper control limit. Let's make this smaller. Let's move it up. And drag it somewhere there so that everyone knows what that is. And let's go to format shape. Let's remove the fill, no fill. Let's change the font to just black and leave it that way. Now, I can also copy this, Control C, put it down here. Oops. Control C, Control V. It's right here. And we're going to move the call out so that it points this way. And we're going to call this the lower control limit. And I'm going to move this somewhere else. Upper control limit. And then I'm going to add more pictures. Why not, right? Insert, illustration. This time I'm going to put an icon in. And I'm going to look for an icon for graph, right? Anything look interesting? Not really, but I could put this one in and insert, okay? And just put that right here. And that's the end of our chart. Oops, delete. That's interesting. Excel did not group the call out with the chart. So I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to select, and select the chart, and then go to shape and format and choose to group it. Now, if I move one, I should move everything. Oops, still not working. So maybe don't use the call out chart this time. It should have embedded it in, and I'm too lazy to figure out why it's not doing it. But you know what? Here is what we have. We have our dynamic control chart. Enjoy your day.